Have you ever noticed how often the predictions that we make for our lives are surprisingly accurate? When we feel like something will go well, it usually does. And when we feel like we will fail at something, we've lost the game before we've really gotten started. So today we're going to talk all about the psychological phenomenon of self-fulfilling prophecies, what they are, how they can secretly run our life, and how we can learn to change our inner programming to have them work to our advantage. Stick around. Welcome back. My name's Nina and I'm a life coach that specializes in personal development. Here at this channel we talk all about our emotional well-being, understanding our own psychology, and leading our best life possible. So if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected. So what exactly is a self-fulfilling prophecy? We can define it as an expectation or a belief that actually comes into fruition because we believe it will happen. So in other words, we have a schema about something. We have a belief that causes us to change our behavior, which causes the consequence of giving us our expected outcome. Now, this phenomenon can actually strongly impact our life and our experiences. Let me give you a small example of this. So let's say that you were invited on a blind date, and for whatever reason, it pops into your head that it's not going to go well. It's going to be a disaster. Now, you have no reason at all to believe this, but the thought went through your mind and you started to entertain that thought and you started to actually believe that this was the case. So what's going to happen is subconsciously, your mind is going to take that expectation and try to find proof for it. So it's very likely that during the evening, anything that could be potentially viewed as negative is going to be something that you will strongly remember, and you will disregard anything that could be regarded as positive. So you're always going to look for that proof that the things aren't going well, and it will start to also affect your behavior. You're going to behave in a way that makes it seem like you are not interested or that it's not going well, even though to them maybe it really is going well. So our thoughts and expectations determined the outcome for us before we even had the date. So when we ended the date, we came to the conclusion that we had come to even before it started, which was that the date did not go well. One of the most famous examples of this comes from a series of experiments they did in the 1960s, which shows what is sometimes called the Pygmalion effect. So let me tell you a little bit about these experiments because I think they are very, very interesting and extremely eye-opening. So what they did is they gathered some school teachers and they gave them rosters for the upcoming academic year. Now on these lists, they notated children that they said were gifted, that they were going to be intellectually or academically blooming throughout the year, and they said that they knew this because they had done some kind of specialized test for them. In reality, these children were completely chosen at random and just picked out of a hat. So what happened as a consequence is that the teachers viewed them differently, and the children that were supposedly gifted were given much more time, attention, and more opportunities. So at the end of the year, they decided to legitimately test the children, and they found out that the children that had been deemed as being gifted, even though they weren't in reality, scored significantly higher than the other children. So again, they had just pulled these names out of a hat, but because there was that expectation, the behavior of the teacher was altered, which changed the behavior of the children, and they ended up learning a lot more. So we can think about how many times in our own life where this is the case. We can have these self-fulfilling prophecies about ourselves, we can have them about other people, and we can have them about situations in general. Now, it becomes problematic, however, when we start to have negative self-fulfilling prophecies. And unfortunately, more often than not, we have negative self-fulfilling prophecies. We are much more likely to believe in a negative outcome than a positive outcome. We have a severe negativity bias. So when we, of course, believe something negative is going to happen to us or things are not going to turn out well, it is extremely likely that we will have an unfavorable favorable outcome. Now, luckily, that does not have to be the case. We can actually believe in a positive outcome and have a positive outcome come into fruition. The best example for this is the placebo effect. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, it simply means it's something that is given to a patient that has no therapeutic benefit whatsoever, but it's given under the guise that it is going to cure or help some kind of ailment. So like a sugar pill, for example. Now, a placebo could be a medication, it could be an injection, it could be a fake surgery even, or a belief system that you give to someone. But it is something that has no proven effects at all, that the person has an expectation about, that actually leads to clinical results. In many cases, researchers have actually found that placebos are up to 50% as effective as actual treatments for these conditions. So that shows us how incredibly powerful our subconscious minds actually are, and how our expectations are shaping our reality every single moment of our lives. So my invitation to you is to start to truly gain an awareness of this phenomenon, so you can stop having it sabotage your life and start to have it as an advantage in your life. And there are 3 different ways we can start to learn this process. The first thing that we need to do is really notice that it's happening in our life, really have an assessment of when it's happening and the different times in our life where we can see that clearly we had a self-fulfilling prophecy that was negative in nature that came true because we changed our behavior to match our belief that really pushed that outcome into fruition. So a great idea is to literally list it out, and you will see how often this is actually occurring. Think about your mindset, think about your attitude, and see if you are having negative thoughts that are leading to negative outcomes in your life. How often is this happening? When, why, and where is it happening? You want to write all of that down on your list, and you want to start catching yourself in the process whenever you figure out that, yes, I am engaging in self-fulfilling prophecies. The second part of this is retraining our brain. When we notice that we have these negative thoughts, we need to choose a different thought. Remember, we are not a victim of our thoughts, and we don't have to ride on any train of thought that comes into our mind. We can have that awareness that it's happening and question it and say, is this really going to lead to something positive if I continue in this thought process? So most likely the answer is going to be no, so we want to just choose a different thought. And we want to just develop this habit, because it's not going to change overnight. We have a habitual way of thinking, so we just need to retrain that brain. And the third thing we need to do is behave in a way we want our thoughts to be in alignment with. So in other words, we want to be as if or act as if. So if we want a certain outcome, we need to figure out how we would need to behave to make that come into fruition. So in this way, our actions are actually going to cue our thoughts. And when we get used to behaving in a certain way, our thoughts and our mindset starts to come on board with that. So it's kind of working in reverse, which is actually a very effective method for this as well. It's just like the scientific study they did on smiling. We know that when we smile, even when we don't really feel like it or don't really have a reason to, we are much more likely to become happy, because we are giving our body the cue of happiness, and everything else starts to come on board with that, and we start to have those more pleasant, joyful feelings. So do remember that it does take dedication and time to change our behavior and to change our mindset and thought processes. But with practice, you will see how easy it becomes to have self-fulfilling prophecies that are positive and lead to extremely amazing manifestations in your life. So just remember, when we expect something positive to happen, it is likely to happen. And when we expect something negative to happen, it is also likely to happen. So be in control of your thoughts, and it will help you be in control of your actual reality. So I truly hope this video was helpful to you today, and if it was, please like it, share it with someone else who may need to hear the same message today. Also, again, if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected, and I thank you so much for spending time with me today. Have an absolutely amazing day.